But heathens are snitching on their fellow wicked ass heathens at high levels. Once again, we reach into the dark web. But the synagogue of Satan don't want none of this to be seen on platforms that they run. Once again, here go one of our favorite heathen snitchers. The name of this video is Real ID Day. The transition into the digital mark of the beast system is her. Y'all see the orange pervert standing next to that cloven-footed bastard, both of them smiling like politicians? Yes, we gonna let the heathen tell it.
YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
This morning, hundreds of flights canceled as the travel nightmare which began at Newark Airport ripples across the country. At the heart of it, an outdated air traffic control system that the administration is looking to fix.
We need to build a brand new air traffic control system.
Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy set to lay out his overhaul of the nation's air traffic control system, desperately needed after decades of neglect.
These facilities have to operate as we're building new radar, fiber, radios, sensors.
This after a major outage last week cut off communication and radar between air traffic controllers and airplanes around Newark Airport for 60 to 90 seconds. In newly obtained audio, you can hear that confusion. Pilots trying to make contact met by silence. And even when air traffic controllers were finally able to reach various planes, they were still unable to locate them.
We don't have a radar, so I don't know where you are.
What?
And we now know it's not the first time. Similar radar and communication outages happening once a month from August to December at Newark. Radio communications alone also going down at least 8 times. It all comes as another big change hits airports. Real ID now in effect. Hours-long lines from coast to coast ahead of today's launch.
This is my 3rd attempt. Twice I was turned away after a 3-hour wait.
Our Alex Perez outside Chicago's Real ID Supercenter on Tuesday.
For weeks now, this is what the line here has looked like, blocks long, and some getting in line at 4 a.m., hours before the facility even opens.
Travelers were told that starting today, a Real ID compliant driver's license or a sufficient alternative like a passport is needed to fly domestically.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. It's May 7th, 2025, which means it is ID Day, where the Real ID has finally been implemented in the United States of America. And the Real ID is the beginning. It is the precursor. It is the transition into the digital ID, which people such as myself believe is the mark of the beast. Now, there's things that can be done in regards to the Real ID, as I'll get into later in the video, because there's always things we can do. We don't comply. We don't give in. We don't listen to them when they say you have to have a Real ID to fly, or you could bring a passport. Well, if you don't have a passport, go sign up for a passport today, because they are studying the data right now on how many people are complying and how many people are not. And you may have heard how they're mentioning this, and I use that specific clip from the morning news on Good Morning America, national news, in regards to the infrastructure and the airport and the air traffic control, because they're literally talking about the control grid with how everything is going to sync up. Most people out there probably saw that and they said to themselves, well, they're talking about the Real ID. Why are they telling me about air traffic control problems? Because all of this stuff is going to be run through an artificial intelligence governance, and it needs your compliance, and it needs you to get on board with the Real ID, which will transition into the digital ID. You may have noticed some of the propaganda and some of the things that they do in news clips like that is they show you the long lines outside. They want you to feel like there's a lot of demand, that people are panicking to go get it. So you panic and go get it. Kind of like when they tell you there's a toy that's so oversold that everybody wants. And then you go, I don't even know why I want this, but I'm going to go and buy it. It's a mind control method. Because if you actually watch later in the video, I'll show you local affiliate news stations that try to pretend like there's lines around the block, and they can't even simulate that there's lines around the block. They're trying to tell you that there's an overabundance of demand for this, but the fact of the matter is people are not complying, and if people continue not to comply, then they will have to continue to delay this. They've been trying to push this since the 11th day of September, which was part of the entire plan, digital infrastructure, Real ID, and obviously we know everything that came about with the Patriot Act. So a lot of people out there are thinking that this is something that's perfectly innocent. The Real ID, it's not a big deal because it's not being named the digital ID, but they're going to do everything they can to get you to comply with the Real ID. And then they're going to start phasing you out. If you do not have a Real ID, it starts with you can't go in an airport. Guess what? It ends up being you can't drive a car. They are going to start eliminating people from a normal driver's license into their control grid system. That's what this is all about. And this is the clip that aired from the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, who's another one of these Trump supporters. This entire MAGA manipulation is bringing in the New World Order infrastructure. The New World Order infrastructure is artificial intelligence governance. It is a control grid. Everything is digital. Everything is controlled all the way down to your movements, to how many breaths you take, everywhere you go, everything you do. And eventually, of course, we know when this is inside of the human body, everything you think will be under their control. This is a commercial that they aired a few weeks ago and how they bait conservatives into thinking that the Real ID is a good thing, how it's for safety in America, talking, even showing you on the screen, as you can see here, rules were initiated in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. Well, of course they're saying that. They're playing into the patriots. They're playing into nationalists, right? You need the Real ID if you're a nationalist. You need the Real ID if you believe in America, because this is how we keep America safe. And of course, this plays into the stuff, as I'll get into later, with the illegal immigrants. They are deceiving people into going along with this, just like they deceive people into complying to be governed. Do not comply. People went and they voted because they got duped into voting. They complied, but their vote, they gave their consent with their vote to be governed by these people. That's how this system actually works. But here's a commercial that they aired for the Real ID with Kristi Noem.
Hi, I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a Real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a Real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States. These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay. To learn more, go to dhs.gov/real-ID. Thank you.
So again, this is a precursor. This is the beginning of the implementation of the mark of the beast. There's going to be people who don't agree with.
That's the pentagram that they put on the Real IDs in every state. It has 1 point up, like the Dallas Cowboy helmet, that signifies witchcraft. When you see the pentagram used with 2 points up, like you see Baphomet goat head inside of it, and that Masonic emblem that they lie to the world and call the Eastern Star, that ain't no damn Eastern Star. That's a satanic-ass emblem of a satanic-ass cult. When you see that pentagram with 2 points up, that means you in the devil worship. The 2 points up represent the goat horns. If there's any of y'all that understood what Brother Jacob just said, put a Negro 9 up in her. They choose the pentacle for a reason. It's needed in summoning and worshiping and serving demonic forces. Toda Rabah for the Negro Nines.
With that, we know there's people who have a different opinion on what the mark of the beast is. There's some that think people already got it by getting injected, even though I don't understand that concept, since I can still buy and sell pretty easily without having that nanotech inside of my body. The majority of us still buy and sell, but this is what we're headed towards. You notice on the Real ID as well, the pentagram in the top right corner that so many people think is a star. Is the government a fan of the Dallas Cowboys? Is that why they're putting the star in there? Starbucks? How about the Dallas Stars? How about every company that uses a star in its logo, or the American flag itself, which uses the 5-pointed star, which is really a pentagram in disguise. They don't need the crosses across in the pentagram, the points across, the lines across, to make it a pentagram. It's the points in the star. So, of course, this is the mark that is on these licenses as we speak. And the Real ID, what you need to understand, is that this is the transition into the digital ID. This is the beginning of the enforcement of a digital ID, because the Real ID allows TSA, allows outside entities to accept digital IDs into the workforce. If you have a job where you have to have an ID, this allows you to transition into one digitally. And they will start phasing you out of certain things in the future if enough people comply to this system. If people comply and they go aboard with this, they continue to get a Real ID, they will phase people out. That is why it's important to tell people not to comply. They're giving the option to still bring a passport. You don't have one? Go get a passport. Don't wait in line at the DMV. Go get a passport. It has nothing to do with national security. It has nothing to do with who votes, if illegal votes. Those are all government psyops. It has to do with implementing their control grid digitally. It is enslavement through technology. That's what this is. Remember a few weeks ago, I talked about the boarding passes. Okay, the boarding passes and check-ins are being scrapped. The UN is backing plans to digitize air transport, which means no more printing your boarding pass. Everything's got to be on your phone. But what if you don't own a phone? Don't own a phone in 2025. Well, I guess we're going to phase you out, right? And then eventually, like I've talked about with Elon Musk and all these big tech companies, are telling you that phones are going to be obsolete by 2030. So if they're digitizing everything and you have to go to the airport and use your phone, but the phone's going to be obsolete, what do you think that means? It means that it's going to be inside of your body. Okay, and what you're seeing here is this new digital airport. They're downloading biometric passports on the phone, because eventually this is biometric. You are what gets scanned, not your passport on your phone, because the phone will be gone. It'll be in your genetic code. That is what gene editing is. They're trying to edit you and embed technology inside of your body. If you didn't see the stuff with the digital airport rules in the UK, let me just show you that real quick so you can see where we're headed with biometrics.
New airport rules plan to get rid of boarding passes and check in and go fully digital. The way it works, passengers would download a biometric passport on their phone, drop off their luggage, and go through security after a face scan. Then you'd board the plane without showing your ticket or a passport at all. But what does that all mean for your privacy? Let's ask Kurt, the cyber guy. He joins us now. Katie on the staff here went through, she said in Dubai, they just looked right at her, boom, she goes in. So this is happening some places already. Should we be nervous? I mean, that feels kind of like a pretty big step.
Well, Clay, good morning to you. I'm wondering, who's in control of all of this data?
Great question.
Who is going to be the one that keeps the safety of all our deeply personal facial recognition data safe that matches to our credentials? It is what people are calling the biggest shakeup in the airline industry in at least 50 years. Airlines and airports doing away over the next 3 years with the check-in process, as well as scanning a boarding pass. That'll all go away. A biometric digital travel credential will be created, or you could use your smartphone. It's going to show your face to a scanner when you enter the airport, and boom, you're in, just like Clay was saying. And this is, this digital travel credential will carry everything. It'll have your passport on it. It'll have your driver's license on it. It'll have your ticket on it. And it'll also understand your flight information to know if you're in the right place at the right time. Well, this is expected to radically shorten the amount of time you need at the airport. But again, a lot of questions about who's going to be in control of this data. We already know that all they're telling us, Clay, is that as far as what you and I scan in, that when we go to the airport and we scan our faces, that within 15 seconds, our data is going to be wiped from that reader. But what about on the other end? Who's controlling all of that? There are a lot of unanswered questions here.
Kurt, I also expect, because every single day it seems like I open up a news app and data has leaked. You're saying that that would be scrubbed in 15 seconds. I think a lot of people out there watching are asking the question, really? Because it feels inevitable that all of this highly sensitive data would at some point get scrubbed, get taken, get scanned, and end up in the wrong hands. Am I crazy for this to worry about it? I don't think so.
Well, the world has been really bad at tracking all of this stuff, Clay. I think you're right. And the fact is, I don't know who's been determined to be in control of this data. And if it's a universal thing from the UN, and I don't know if many people know this, but, the UN dictates a lot of what happens when we fly. And they're the ones that are behind why we have the universal language or the global language at airports is English. So they also determine these sorts of things.
And that's what this is all about. Digital weapons for a silent war. We're talking digital IDs from birth, carbon allowance, social credit scoring. Social credit scoring, just like China, I might add, which I've broken down many times. And if you don't believe me, look it up. Where you're scored on your behavior. You're scored on how, if you go and do this, because it's carbon friendly, and you get bonus points in your account, but you're eating, grass instead of eating meat, right? And then, of course, as a result of that, you're becoming more and more unhealthy. Sustainable development goals, they're all based on a digital ID, social impact bonds, ESG investing. Okay, we're talking about universal basic income as well. All of these things, every single aspect of your life is controlled by this control grid. Posting things online. Whether you like me or not and you're listening to this, it doesn't matter to me. You're allowed to not like me. You're allowed to troll my channel. You're allowed to troll others. Well, guess what? With a digital ID, you're going to be monitored what you say. So whether you're friends with somebody or not, or you like somebody you don't, your behavior is going to be fully monitored. And if the government deems it, your business.
Trump and them Hymians already monitoring social media. All them college students that say one thing in favor of them dog-faced Palestinians, and they fight against the synagogue of Satan over in our homeland, they rounding their ass up and throwing them headlong out of here. They already monitor our social media. Don't be fooled. These things ain't gonna take place in the future. They happening right now. And on the low, they've been working facial scans in every government building, major businesses. All of this biometrics has been practiced for the past couple of decades. These ain't futuristic things. They're taking place right now in real time. You can't walk 5 steps in London, England without being recorded. The synagogue of Satan is at work.
Misbehaving right now, like if you're trolling me, they're probably giving you a thumbs up. But a few years from now, when they start going after you and your rights, and they don't like the fact that you're gay anymore, or they don't like the fact that you've transitioned anymore, well, suddenly you're going to go, what's going on here? Why'd they turn on me? Well, you gave them control of you. You gave them control by allowing them to implement this infrastructure they're trying to put into place, right? Remember the digital passports they tried to implement during the outbreak? Everybody's got to have a passport so we know who goes from where to there to who to what. All of a sudden they got pushback on that, right? They got pushback on the digital ID because people started questioning if there was really even a virus in the first place, right? And remember some of the other stuff we saw during that time period? Where Trudeau vows to freeze anti-mandate protesters' bank accounts. That whether we believe that's a psyop or not, it's another question. But when everything's digitized, the government will have the ability to freeze your bank account at will. They'll have the ability to shut off everything, including the power in your home. Remember the video I did on Amazon where somebody said something racist through their front door to an Amazon delivery guy, supposedly, because the entire thing was likely a psyop? And what happened? Well, the Amazon driver contacted Amazon headquarters and they shut off all of his Amazon devices in his home. And suddenly he couldn't use his refrigerator because it was a smart Amazon fridge. He couldn't use his faucet because everything was turned off by Amazon, right? By the corporations who run and control all of this. So they are quietly luring people in to this real ID. They're not calling it the digital ID because it's not yet. And remember, the digital ID eventually is you. The biometrics is you. You're the ID. Everything is going to be implemented through your genes. They are luring people in, and they have been. Which is why I warn about Donald Trump. All the people out there are so supportive of Donald Trump and the right wing because they got so lit up and gaslit by the Democrats over the years that they refuse to see through it. They think that the assassination attempts were real when they couldn't have been faker. They believe all of it, right? And this is the propaganda they're putting out with the real ID. The real ID is about to go into effect. Here's how it may impact voting. And it says, among the documents used to prove U.S. citizenship, as outlined in the SAVE Act, which is going through Congress at the same time, is the real ID, a form of identification that meets higher security standards up to par with those the federal government has established. Those that are real ID compliant have a star on them. You see that, though? Among the documents used to prove U.S. citizenship will eventually be, with the SAVE Act, will be the real ID. That's what you'll need. They'll say, you know what? We can't go by this physical, old school ID, even though the only difference really is that this has a star on it, but you're going to get more of your data. They're going to try to get this all put into a computer system, then all jammed into a digital wallet. And then eventually through blockchain, this stuff is going to be in your body. I know that sounds hard for new people to understand, but continue listening and you'll learn, and your eyes will start opening more and more to all of this stuff. But the propaganda about the illegals is very important with the digital ID. They're going to work them with the voting system. The real ID, you need a real ID to vote. Go get your real ID, conservatives. You'll be hearing that probably mostly during next fall's elections, the 2-year cycle. And then leading up
we don't vote no
to whatever
damn
potentially
way.
happens in
Now,
4
hell
years if
with
we
the
have
election.
an Obama and Trump lunacy presidential race that people will accept in this country, because they'll accept anything.
Hebrews can't vote their way up out of captivity. We don't give a damn about these crackers voting.
At this point, they can break the Constitution, they can break the law, they can come into your home and do what you want, and nobody seems to do anything. So what is it about? How do we push back? Compliance. We push back with non-compliance. I said it, and I've said it for years about everything. Don't comply to it. Don't comply. It's very simple. When you go and you vote, you are giving your consent to be governed by these people. That's what you're doing. Whether you vote left or right, you're opting into their system. When you pay into the tax system, you're opting into their system. When you get a real ID, you're opting into their system. Look at some of this stuff. This is local news. I'm going to show you this. This is local news where they're showing you compliance rates. This is from New Jersey local news. I went through all the affiliate outlets to see what they were talking about in regards to real ID. And I took this one specifically because it had a lot of propaganda in it. But they're saying, look, New Jersey, 80% of people have passports and only 19% are using real IDs. And then they show you how from New York to Connecticut, there's a rise in the real ID. So as a result of a lot of people not complying, Kristi Noem has said travelers can still travel without the real ID for now because people aren't complying. But listen to the propaganda in this news clip. And it has all the telltale signs of basic government propaganda, right? I'm showing you the screenshots here. Real ID deadline. Look at the paperwork on the desk. C-33, calling card, right? The news anchor, who you'll see momentarily, doing the triangle power multiple times with his hands. And keep in mind how they tell you that there's a lot of people in line at the New Jersey DMV and you see nobody standing in line. They show you a woman who is there frantically trying to get one despite no one being there. And they turn her away, trying, of course, like I said earlier, to get you to think that, oh my goodness, you got to get one. You should do anything to get one. They're turning people away from getting them. You need to get one, right? And of course, at the end of the video, pay attention to the shaming and the things about the people who refuse to get the real ID, but how phase one is a soft lean in. That's what we're experiencing right now, but it's going to intensify and the real ID will be an absolute requirement. Listen.
Well, as if the issues at Newark Airport aren't enough to make passengers stress, there's also this. Midnight tonight is the deadline to obtain your real ID. After years of pushing it back, the Department of Homeland Security is now set to enforce that deadline. However, today, federal officials sought to reassure those who are not in compliance yet and will still have other options to allow them to travel. And that's good news for New Jersey, which has some of the lowest compliance rates in the nation. Eyewitness News reporter Stefan Kim live in North Bergen with more. Stefan.
Well, David, out of about 24 people we spoke with, 2 of them already had a real ID. 2 others were coming in today to get one. The rest of them either had no idea what a real ID is or could not care less for one.
Every time I travel, I use my passport to travel.
Easier.
At
the Motor Vehicle Commission in North Bergen, the day before the real ID deadline, there was a long waiting line, but it wasn't for a real ID.
I ain't got time. I just renewed my passport, so it's that's all I need.
But it's full steam ahead at Newark Liberty Airport.
We are ready to go. We have a reasonable, manageable plan in place that will be launching at midnight tonight. I think a lot of the delays that have happened in this process over the years kind of gave people a sense of security that it might be delayed again.
New Jersey, in fact, has one of the lowest rates of real ID compliance at 19%, although it has one of the highest rates of passport holders at 80%, which counts as a form of real ID. 45% compliance in New York, where similarly many have passports. Connecticut, meanwhile, coming in at 73% compliance. If you do not have some form of real ID, TSA officials say add an extra 30 minutes to your trip.
The people who are not Real ID compliant can rest assured, and they can take a deep breath. They will still be able to process through the TSA checkpoint. They need to just bake in a little bit more time into their journey and anticipate that they will be subjected to some enhanced screening processes.
We recognize that this is a security issue. Congress has had many, many years to reevaluate it and decide if they wanted to change the law or to stop it. And the Biden administration chose that it should go into place on May 7th. And we intend to follow the laws.
But part of the reason why so many in New Jersey haven't gotten a real ID is because securing an appointment at the MVC for one has been a struggle, which is why Helen Castro showed up today, hoping they take a walk-in. So you're just hoping you get one today?
Yes, I want to.
Now, no surprise, she walked out without a real ID in hand and instead with an application for one in her hand. By the way, TSA officials say at midnight tonight is the start of phase 1. They call that the least restrictive phase. And as time goes on, they say the process will intensify. Eventually, it'll be an absolute requirement to have some sort of real ID in order to fly.
So they're pressing hard. That's what you're seeing there. They're pressing hard to convince you that, well, some of these people are a little suspect that don't have, okay, well, guess what? They don't want to get it. They showed you people who said what? I don't want to get the digital. I don't want to get the real ID. I don't want to get in line. I'm fine. I'll use my passport. Then the guy says what? He says, well, have fun waiting an extra 30 minutes at the airport. So what are they going to do for an extra 30 minutes at the airport? Huh? You going to give you a cavity search now at the airport? Probably. Probably will, because people probably go along with it. Big, sure, fine. Give me a cavity search, right? They can get away with whatever they want, really, at this point, right? But you heard him, right? The guy was telling you at the airport in Newark, well, this is what we're going to do going forward. Expect 30 minutes earlier. So if you're coming 2 hours earlier, come 2.5 to 3 hours earlier. We're going to make your life a living hell unless you get this. Kind of like a couple years ago where they said, you need to come and you need to inject yourself with what we say. And if you don't, we'll make your life a living hell, including taking your job. Including taking your job and shaming you, and then convincing the zombies to shame you as well, convincing your family members to turn on you. That's what your government's telling you in that news clip. That is a controlled news clip. They're shaming the people in New Jersey who don't have a real ID. That's why they're showing you what people in Connecticut, look at the rates rise. And that's why they say at the end of the clip, almost in a disgusting tone of voice, you are going to need it one way or another. It's going to be an absolute. It's going to be a necessity to live. Like they told you in 2021, right? You don't get this, we're going to phase you out of society. People who refuse to go and get what we say, you won't be a member of our society anymore because you're not compliant. Didn't have to tell you what they were even giving you. Didn't have to tell you that it would make you immune. Didn't have to tell you that it would cure you. Did nothing. Go get what we say or you're not a part of our society. That's the answer right there. You look back and you say, no, guess what? You're not a member of our society anymore. We don't need you. We don't need any of you. We don't need your system. We don't even need to overthrow Congress to do that. We just have to stop participating in their game. And that's why I warn in every video when I cover politics about the left-right paradigm. It's the most important aspect. When people are in the left-right paradigm, then they're in the game. They're voting. They're getting angry about government psyops every day. Oh, illegals. I'm going to go get my real ID. Oh, my goodness. They're crashing the Tesla stock. Even though I'm against electric vehicles because I'm a macho man conservative, I'm going to go get a Tesla because I support Elon Musk. They're stuck in the psyop and they're getting duped and lured into this without even realizing it. The Real ID, the next thing up, is going to have to do with the SAVE Act and, of course, people voting in the next upcoming elections. They'll create psyops around it. They'll convince you it's a necessity. And watch, if they're telling you that they're turning people away at the airport, they get turned away at the airport. Go get a passport. And if they say you can't fly anymore, then don't fly. Don't fly. Don't play and participate in their game. Because right now, what they're doing right now, today, May 7th, is they're tracking data. How many people got one today? How many people are saying what online, positively or negatively? And if you go in the comment sections under some of the obvious areas where you'll find sheeple, like Good Morning America, they're like, if people haven't complied by now, then let them walk. That's what people are saying in the comment section. Go to the Good Morning America video. If people haven't gotten it yet after all this time, then it's on them. It's their fault. Those are the same people who were telling you to wear a mask, and then when you proved your point that it was not necessary, they just completely ignored you. Pretended that they weren't embarrassed or ashamed because they're such narcissists that they were. Same people that told you to go poison yourself and your kids and everybody you knew and said they would cut you off if you didn't. Those are the same people who are telling you, hey, you know what? You should walk if you didn't go and get your Real ID. They're human sheeple who continue to participate in this enslavement game. And the game might not be against them yet. It might only be against people like us who are calling them out. But we see the walls closing in, even on people like us. Wait till it closes in on them. Their heads are going to explode. They're going to have panic attacks. They're not going to be able to handle it because they're not going to understand how we got to the point that we're going to be at in the future. And it's because of this. It's because complying to government control. The Real ID is more government control. It has nothing to do with safety. Nobody's told you how it has anything to do with safety in any of those clips. They just say security. It has to do with national security because that's all they need to say. Because it's a trigger word that makes people go, oh, national security. Oh, 9/11. Oh, my gosh, I better get a Real ID. Right? Meanwhile, your own government was responsible for it. Working with, Bagel Land over there. Right? They don't tell you that they had to do that event, not just as a mass sacrifice ritual, but that was the event that led to all this. The stripping of rights, the Patriot Act, the removal of privacy, giving the NSA access to our homes, our phones, everything through that, which they did themselves so that they'd be able to do it. Then they started annoying you at airports with TSA this, take off your shoes that. All so they could come back around full circle and say, look, you're going to have a 5-hour wait at the airport if you don't have a Real ID. But if you have a Real ID, you can walk on the plane like it's the 1960s. You can bring a cigarette for all we care. Just go and get it, right? Yeah, just like they were telling you a couple years ago. Go and get it. We'll give you gift cards, lap dances. We'll do whatever you want. Just go and get it. We promise. We'll just give you everything. You name it. We'll give it to you, right? Same difference. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a precursor. Some people out there will believe it's the actual mark. They're allowed to believe whatever they choose. I don't argue, and I'll argue and debate people about what I believe it is, but everybody has a right to believe what they want to believe. People already think that the mark is out there and people have already taken it. They don't know that or think that it's a trial run like most of us thought, where they were seeing who would be a willing participant to have their genetics edited, which they all were. They were like, lab rats. Then they're monitoring to see how the tech's working in their bodies. What we're looking at here is the transition into a digital ID. The Real ID is going to begin the phase out of everything else. It's going to begin the phasing out of our actual licenses by saying, look, you can't use your license here at the grocery store. You can't do this. You can't do that anymore. You can't go in the airport. Can't drive a car. Got to have a Real ID, right? And then the Real ID is the transition into the digital ID because it's already in the rule book already here. It's in, everything you read about it, right? That enforcement for the Real ID, their TSA are accepting digital IDs. That means the government's going to begin accepting digital IDs at a mass scale, not a state level, a mass scale. And driver's licenses won't be acceptable anymore. That's what we're headed towards. This is the transition. Push back. Don't comply. Don't be afraid. Just understand what we're dealing with here. These people are not smarter than you are. If you understand their game, pay attention to their game. Pay attention to their tricks. They're always luring you in. And the biggest key to it all, as boring as it might sound, is the left-right paradigm. Because they keep the people divided down each other's throats, and then they work agendas each way to get people to comply to the things they want. And the digital ID, the Real ID, it'll work both ways. Because the Democrats will go get the Real ID if they're told. Because they'll do whatever they're told. Don't you say they'll do whatever they're told? Go get this potion. Okay, I'll go get it 10 times. How many times? 40? I'll go and get it. The conservatives push back. No, we don't want to get that. But Trump says that, ooh, we can do this. And you see them kind of hesitate. And they're like, wait, he's talking about gene editing again. Oh, but I'll go get a Tesla because, we got to support Elon. He's telling us that Sesame Street is getting funded by our taxes in Iraq. We better go fund them and go buy it. They don't even realize they're being duped into it because they're emotionally sucked into the left-right. The left-right is what's causing this. It's stripping us of our rights. Little by little, it's a tug of war back and forth. With every puppet they put in power, they strip us of our rights. They force us into these things. They make us think that these things are for our best interest, and they're not. Therefore, enslaving us. This is the digital enslavement system. The Tower of Babel rebuilt through AI governance, all brought in by Donald Trump and the Republican Christian, quote unquote, I'm using parentheses because they're not, conservatives who are duping people. Read your Bible. Deceptions, liars, Satan. They're all around you right now. These people can't be trusted. Stop letting them lure you psychologically into their game. Do not comply. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well.